All right, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 200. Cue the confetti, drop the balls, the balloons, all the things. It's really fun to have this milestone of 200 episodes, which is really incredible to have that body of work. And I am joined by a special guest, April King, who's our field community manager. And she's also co-founder of Better Than Provisions. And we're turning the tables today on the podcast. April is going to be the host and ask me questions. And we reached out to our Fuel members and asked them to submit their questions. So I'm going to let April take it away from here. So welcome, April.
Welcome to your food business success. This podcast is for early stage entrepreneurs in the packaged food industry ready to finally turn that delicious idea into reality. I'm your host, Sari Kimbell. I have guided hundreds of food brand founders to success as an industry expert and business coach. And it's gotta be fun. In this podcast, I share with you mindset tools to become a true entrepreneur and run your business like a boss. Interviews with industry experts to help you understand the business you are actually in, and food founder journeys so you can learn what worked and didn't work and not feel so alone in your own journey. Now let's jump in.
Well, thank you, Sari. I'm very excited to be here. It's really a secret dream of mine to have my own podcast one day. And so this gives me, I think, a little practice to ask some questions and see how good I am at interviewing you. You've gotten a lot of experience over your 200 episodes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a huge accomplishment. It's not a small, it's not a small job to have a podcast. So there's a lot that goes into it that not everyone sees or hears behind the scenes. So well done. Congratulations. And as Sari mentioned, I'm April King. I am the Fuel Community Manager. That is our membership group coaching program. And how I got here is by being a client of Sari's. And 4 years ago, we started working together on my business, Better Than Provisions, which I co-founded and still own and operate to this day. But we made lots of progress in our own business by getting the support of someone who is an expert. And I can say how grateful I am for that experience and how far we've come because of it. So it's really great to be part of the community, giving guidance where I can to other food founders who are just getting started. And so it's really great to be here. And yes,
I get emotional already.
I know. I'm not supposed to make
Keep it
you
together,
cry
Sari. Keep it together.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we've come a long way together, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you started your practice in what, 2018?
Officially, I started coaching in the CPG space, I guess, in 2017 when I had my first couple of clients. Yeah.
Right. Wow. And then we launched our business in 2018. And then we started working with you as a consultant in 2019 through the pandemic and since. And then this past year, I came on board into the Fuel community. So yes, we've grown a lot.
To work with you, and you're an incredible coach. And I should also mention that we are recording this on YouTube. So if you guys want to watch the video, you can do that, or just listen to us. All right, I'm going to stop being the podcast host for reals now.
Okay. All right. And you can always jump in. I'm always open for feedback. But all right. So I wanted to start by getting to know you a little bit, having our listeners get to know you a little bit better. And for those who are new to the concept, maybe this is their first episode they're listening to, they've not met you before or us. And I'm like, what is a food business consultant? And then I would piggyback that with, what is your favorite part about being a consultant?
I don't really know what a food business consultant is. I'm figuring it out. I I made it up to some extent, but in general, a consultant is somebody that has a lot of expertise in a certain area, and they're going to help get you from point A to point B faster, right? Using all of their expertise, their connections, their learnings, their failures, and really try to, bridge that gap for you to help you cross. I won't mix too many metaphors here, but cross that river, right? Build the bridges. And ultimately, I consider myself more of a coach consultant. I've heard that term on occasion, where, I used to, when I first started, I literally helped people from the very beginning and do everything. So imagine, in 2018, you guys just came to me and said, Sari, build our business for us. And I did everything. It was cool. I learned a lot. I created some really cool businesses. But what I learned is that I would give it back to the client and it would kind of fall apart because they didn't know how to run the business. And they hadn't gone through all of the pain points and the learning and the failures and I went down this end and then I went here and then that was a dead end, but that led me here, right? It's like that constant maze that you are on as an entrepreneur, where you go down dead ends, but that leads you to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. I just realized, like, this isn't serving people in the way I want it to. They're not really in a great position to run with their business and be really successful. And I was ultimately putting them in a place to need me forever. And I was like, I don't actually want to be needed forever, right? It felt cool in a moment, like, oh, I'm really needed, right? And that's definitely part of my personality. I like to be needed. It feels good. But I also don't want to be the linchpin and ultimately what can get in the way of your success. So I changed my model to be more of a coach and put the client in the center of their business. And I am that person that is giving them advice, is giving them expertise, connecting them with the right people, but they're the ones who are doing all the work, right? Figuring it out. And so we do that inside Food Business Success in a more group oriented way, or I have one-on-one clients that I do that model with. I like to say I'm a business coach, business consultant. Well, really I'm a life coach masquerading as a business consultant.
It's true. Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think you've made a couple of really good points. It's kind of like the metaphor of teaching people to fish rather than handing them the fish, but also, like, to stick with that, you're helping them get the bait on the hook and, showing them the technical, things that maybe it would take them longer to figure out, so they can find their own way. And that's how you worked with us too, right? Because we had already had an established business when we came to you. We just wanted to pivot and make something different out of it. So we did a lot of work with that. And we surely did a lot of work around mindset and the other aspects of having a business and being an entrepreneur, that you don't always know what you don't know. And you don't know what you don't know about yourself too, as you get into something and you find that you experience the challenges. So do you have a moment in your business that has left you feeling the most fulfilled? Like, is there something that sticks out into your mind, not necessarily a milestone? Scott of Elevated Gains had asked that question in our Fuel community, and I thought that was a really great question.
Yeah. And there's so many. And I think that's one of the things that I really try to teach people as they grow their businesses is, like, sometimes we have these milestones, these markers of success that are so far out there, right? Like, sometimes people ask me, like, what's your biggest success story? And, are they in every grocery store in the US, or have they exited, or some of these really big things? And I have had some great successes. I do work with, I have worked with some big brands, not to that level, like nobody's exited at hundreds of millions of dollars, but that's honestly not my niche. That's not what I'm here for. I think, why I love it, why I love the work that I do, and what is so fulfilling is those small wins. It's I now have a product, right? I was making something in my home kitchen, and then we go through all the things and it's finally packaged and they make their very first sale. That is just the coolest day. And I always try, if at all possible, I try to be their very first sale because that's really fun for me. And like, have them ship me the product, or if it's local, go buy it at the farmer's market. I'm like, let me be your first sale, because I want that to be like, that memory of that. But then it's, yeah, like getting that when they get on their first shelf at the retailer, or when they get on Amazon. And we do so much in Fuel about celebrating our wins in all my programs, because if we're only looking at that farthest thing out that's like, and we're going to be successful, we're not going to stay in it for that long. Like, I'm not going to wait 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, to finally celebrate. But it's about celebrating those things along the way. And so I find that the work that I've had to do, because at the beginning it was about like, I'm not successful until I get that big brand to get to some big point. It's about who you're becoming as an entrepreneur and the growth that happens as each of you, all of you, go through your experience of being an entrepreneur. And it's just the coolest thing. And sometimes the most fulfilling things are nothing to do with your businesses at all. I end up becoming friends with so many of you, right? Like, I came out for your birthday last year, and that was
You
so
did.
cool and so fun to be there with you, right? And that had nothing to do with our businesses. It was amazing.
And sometimes, especially like where we found the big pie in the sky might be that giant exiting or landing that giant retail customer, and that could be one person's dream and goal. And I remember it being ours at one time, and then we reevaluated that and decided that it wasn't, and that we wanted to run and operate in our business in a completely different way, which is one of the things I love about working with you, is that you take people from where they're at to where they want to go. And in the middle of that, if they decide they want to pivot, you help them do that. And it's not about, oh, well, you had one goal in mind and you can't change your mind. So I think that's the beauty also of sort of your life coaching experience as well. Not just about it being all about the business, but it's actually about what the person wants out of the business.
Thank you for that. I actually want to say something about that real quick before we move on. Is that is really true. And when I think about, there are other consultants out there who are amazing, and there's some that work one-on-one, there's some that have other groups. I think what I find is that a lot of consultants like just have one frame. They're like, we get you to exit, or we get you to this point, and it's very specific, and it's like everybody must follow this path, and they know their stuff. I'm not saying like go for it, right? But what I find is that sometimes we get on a path at the very beginning. We think, I want to be in all these stores, or I want to do XYZ. Once you're in it, like we all should be reevaluating pretty regularly, like, is this still the path I want to be on?
Yeah.
How many people get to the end, quote unquote, whatever that is, and then they're unhappy, they're dissatisfied, they're like, well, wait, that wasn't it. And so if I have any niche at all, I mean, I do, but I would say what I actually want to be known most for is helping people create the business that works for them, for their lives, and having more fun doing it.
Yes. That's amazing. And we appreciate you so much for that. Let's see what we have in terms of questions. I think this is a really good one that Genevieve from the Woolly Spoke asked. Said, if you were to create a CPG product, what would it be and why? So, if you were to make your own product, would you I mean, right? Because like, would you go down that path, or is the path that you're on, really the one that is for you? I mean, I think it's a fun thing to ponder, right?
Yeah, I know. A lot of times people ask me like, well, do you have your own business, a product business? I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Right.
I did try. I did have a little start and fail. And the before I ever really started consulting, well, I guess I was working for the commissary kitchen. So after I blew up my life in 2015, where I got laid off from Whole Foods, I got a divorce, I changed career. I mean, everything, right? All the things changed. And I was working a bunch of like random contract jobs because I wasn't ready to go back into corporate world or, do a real job. So I was working at this commissary kitchen. I was managing it for a friend, and that's really where all of this started. So I was meeting people just like our listeners who were like, I make the most amazing salsa, or I make the most amazing cookies, or granola, whatever it was. And they would want to rent the kitchen. And I would start asking them all these questions about their business based on all my experience with Whole Foods Market, with working in sales and selling into grocery stores and retail and restaurants. And they just would look at me like, why are you asking me these questions? I just want to make my salsa. Like, just let me use the kitchen. I'll figure it out. And that's really where all this started, was like, oh my gosh, I have done all these things. Like the puzzle fits together where I've done them all these things. And so it's like, I want to help these people because they don't know what they don't know. Right. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to go into business with a certain amount of idealism and and optimism, of course.
Yeah.
But if you knew all the things that were, you probably would never start. But so anyway, that's where it all started from. And so in the middle of managing, I was managing the commissary kitchen. I was like starting to do some coaching, consulting through the Small Business Development Center, kind of seeing resources and ways that I could help people. And then I started this company with a friend to make black garlic. And
Oh,
she owned a garlic company. Debbie is her name. And she was like this giant online, like the largest online retailer of garlic, called the Garlic Store. She's since sold the business. But the number one search result that didn't have a product on her website was black garlic. In black garlic, you take whole garlic and it's like a fermentation sort of process that breaks down the sugars in the garlic and it turns it black and like spreadable and almost sweet. Like
yeah,
it's
that's a
wild.
really unique flavor. Mm-hmm.
And it's become over the years, I mean, this was, now like that was 2017, I think, 2016. So yeah, probably 2016. So we were like, we're gonna get on this. And so we had a great idea. We had the garlic, right? She got garlic wholesale. We had an outlet. She had her whole store. People, thousands and thousands of people on her email list who wanted black garlic. But then we had to go figure out the licensing and the equipment and how do we scale it up. And we had bought all these like things on Amazon, but they're more for home use, right? To like play with it. And then we bought this bread proofer. We thought if we need like a certain amount of moisture and a certain amount of heat. And if we could, maybe we can rig this like proofer to do it. And we got her boyfriend involved, who was like, so I've been there, you guys, where
Yeah, that's
like
amazing. I don't even know if I knew the story.
scrapping
It's so
it,
good.
right? Yeah. And I mean, it's hilarious. There's photos of us like we in the kitchen, just like so frustrated trying to figure out how to make this work. And, we couldn't make it work on us with these little guys from Amazon. It wouldn't have been legal commercially. And we did the numbers and it was like, this doesn't, the time and the number of bulbs you can do and all of that.
Right.
So ultimately, what I learned such a good lesson from that is that your why has to be really strong. Did I give a flying F about black garlic? I was not passionate about black garlic at all. I mean, I saw the opportunity in it, but I did not want to keep sinking money into something, money and
Mm-hmm.
time that I wasn't really passionate about. So ultimately, we hit some technical dead ends that I just wasn't willing to continue in making investments in because it was like the next step would have been like a $10,000 machine from China.
But what a great experience for you to have to bring to what you do now,
Yeah.
right? Like you understood that there were going to be certain steps to take. You tried to take them on your own, and you had to get resourceful. And now you are like a resource for people to figure that stuff out, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we the growing pains can be really challenging. And so I think it's really important what you mentioned about having a really strong why. Like, why are you doing this? What is it that this gives you? How does this feed you literally and figuratively, right? And is that enough to get you through the hard times? Being an entrepreneur is not the easiest path to take.
No, no, it
And
is not.
but it can be so rewarding. And that's why we always talk about celebrating the small wins along the way.
And I feel like I should actually answer Genevieve's question. That was like a long answer to her
Yeah.
question. But if I had to do it, if I was like somebody was like, we're giving you $100,000, what would you do with it and your only option is to create a CPG business
Oh, that's
that's in
good.
food. I think what I would do is really do a mixture now that 6 years, 7 years, whatever this has been of all this work is trying to find where's the data pointing at of like some
Mhm.
trends or where people are like really still buying in, right? Whether that's like right now things are very protein
Mhm.
forward or like you're in keto space. So definitely like having something niche that you can really identify your fans and that there's data
Mhm.
to support that they're buying it, that they have money to buy it. I wouldn't want something that's I have to really educate people on too much. Like seek help for or something like that, right? Like I don't want something
Right.
too far out there. I want something that's consumable. So as some of our sauce makers and seasoning blend people know, like you just don't go through seasoning all that quickly, right? I want something that people are going to consume weekly,
Mhm.
ideally, maybe daily. And there would still have to be some passion in there for me, like just like the black garlic thing, like I wouldn't want it just be all numbers and stuff. But what I have
Yeah.
learned is like it's about taking your passion and then becoming passionate about running the business. And that's
Mhm.
the flip that needs to happen. And that's why I love working with the people we do because they're so passionate. They love their
Yeah.
products. They're the things that like their grandma made or, that they finally got their kids to eat their vegetables or like you solved a health problem, right? For yourself and for your clients at the time. And so we want that passion, but ultimately the work that we're doing inside Food Business Success is really about helping people become passionate about running their businesses. So
Yeah.
I would want to have, be behind the product completely and like really love it. And, not be like, I'm selling my soul for this great product that has good numbers. But it's like, it's all got to be there. The numbers, some shelf stability. Can it go to a co-manufacturer? I don't want to ever make a product myself. And yeah, I'd be doing a lot more data, combining it with like practicality of it, right? and
Mhm.
and I love it. I mean, I'm not saying to change your idea, but if I had to do it, we work with people who have frozen products and refrigerated and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
if I had to do it, that's how I would do it, is like be really strategic, use data, um, get really passionate about running the business and make sure it's like easy to make, easy to store, gonna have a shelf life, that
That's a
kind of thing.
great answer. Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of nuggets in there for the new food business entrepreneur. So we have a new person in our community, LaDonna from Trucking Fuel, and she's so very excited about her business. So on that track, I'd love to pose her question to you. And she asks, as a potential new vendor, what suggestions? Because a lot of times we really help people in the very beginning stages of their business. And when they're in the beginning, a lot of times they're doing food under cottage law, which allows them to make it at home. And then they can take it to places like farmers markets and sell it at a farmers market.
Yeah.
And people might not know that you also own a farmers market. So you have the experience of taking on new vendors with new businesses. And she wants to know what success suggestions you have for vetting a farmer's market she's saying that the local town would be the best case scenario, but if you don't have a local option, what distance would you expand? So I guess the first part of the question is, how do you vet a farmer's market? And then how do you know if it's worth it for you to go outside of your local community if that is not available to you?
Yeah. And shout out to LaDonna. We're excited to have her. All these people you
Mhm.
read off, I'm like, oh, they're my favorite. Oh, I love
Yes.
them. So, yeah, first of all, I love that we have cottage food options. Every state
Mhm.
has some form of cottage food law that allows you to start certain products in your home kitchen, which I think is such a wonderful way for people to, at a low cost, low and low risk, to just feel it out, right? Test out the waters. Not every product is going to fall into cottage food, but if yours does, big fan of it. And that's exactly one of the reasons I built Food Business Success is for those early stage folks. So, and if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, I love farmers markets as a great way to get out and start testing your product, get feedback, and be making sales at the same time, right? And to kind of start growing with your business and putting money back into it and iterating it in real time with instant feedback. So I do highly recommend, and cottage food does come with a lot of restrictions on where you can sell, and most states
Mhm.
don't allow you to sell into grocery stores. Some do, like where you're at in Arizona,
Mhm.
April, but most don't. So usually farmers markets are kind of the main way that cottage food people get started. And yeah, I do own a winter farmers market that's very, very successful, very popular, and we have a lot of people who actually do travel quite a distance to come to our market. So I guess to answer the first part of LaDonna's question is, I do think it's important if you have multiple options, yeah, go and vet that farmers market. Like go to the market itself. What days of the week is it? Kind of go at different times, see what the traffic's like. You can go and introduce yourself to the market staff and have a chat. Follow them on social media. Like, are they trying to be really good partners and promote their vendors? Some markets, you're just going to know if they're in your community. You're like, oh, that's the really successful one. That's the really popular one. And then you might have some
Mhm.
that are more like C, B minus list versus A plus. So of course you might want to, you're like, I definitely want to get into the A plus, but the reality is those markets are typically full and you have to get on wait lists and things. And depending on where you're at, I mean, we have people in Fuel who are in California and, they're like, there's no way I'm getting into Santa Monica or Santa Cruz or wherever to those markets right away. So sometimes you just have to be a little, you need to do the more B minus markets, or you need to start doing pop-ups, like start really showing that you can be successful and keep trying, keep going. And Danny and I talk a lot about this in our up level workshop for farmers
Mhm.
markets about vetting and what if you don't get into the market on the first try, and how do you get in. And I worked with Scott with Elevated Gains on his farmers market application, and he hadn't gotten in for 3 years, and then we rewrote it, and he had switched his product a little bit, but he got in, and that was such a cool win for him and helping him out with that. But I mean, ultimately, you have to think about like fees and the partnership and the dates and what are their
Mhm.
policies. Hopefully you can find most of that online. We have a market here in Denver. We have lots of farmers markets here, which is great. Definitely some are more like, A plus, and some are more like B minus, C plus markets. And sometimes you just got to start where you got to start, wherever you can get in, give it a go. But we do have one market here that is ridiculously expensive, and I mean, it's the Cherry Creek market. It's like, I think it's like
Mhm.
$300 for a table for a booth, right? For each market. And so you also have to do your math and be like, am I going to be able to make money doing this, right? And who the customers are, and like, in that up level workshop, we talk about the break even point, and so maybe
Mhm.
before you just go like head first into the 300, that Cherry Creek like market, that you're like, well, maybe that's not for me quite yet, and maybe that doesn't make sense. Now, I have like I worked with a couple beef people when you're selling high-end Wagyu beef at Cherry Creek, that might make sense for you. You're selling, one order is people are buying $300 worth of beef. And you're like, these are my people. But if you have to sell a $6 bag of something, right? Like, how many of those do you have to sell, and is that realistic? So that, it's like just being smart about it. There's lots of things to consider. And then, like I said, our market in Fort Collins is the only winter farmers market, like true winter farmers market, where we have a lot of food there. We run November through April. And so people come from probably some of the we have some people come like 3-4 hours away, but I would say, kind of average is probably like 60 miles away. So if you find a good market, I think it is really worth it. And maybe you don't have to go to every market. Maybe you can go once a month or twice a month, but we have like really flexible policies. Some markets are like, you have to be here at every single market. You don't come at all, and so it's just like finding the right thing for you. So that's how it is.
I think I can add to that because we're in the process of doing that right now too, where we're cutting back on we've negotiated one of our Tucson markets, which is where we live, to do twice a month so that we can go up north to Phoenix for twice a month. And it's one of those things where we're testing the market. We're going to go twice a month. The market that we're getting into isn't actually the market we want from that market group, but because people leave in the summer, we're using that as an opportunity to get our foot in the door. So to show them that we are good vendors, that we are, because we know that this other market is a good fit for us. One of the groups, but it's the one that is always full and everybody wants. And so we're going to demonstrate how we could add something to the market, and also to see how they function, at their markets, so that we know, like, is this a group that we want to be connected with, because it's a 2-hour drive. And, meanwhile, we're adding people to our email list, and worst case scenario, the market's not a fit, but we've gained new customers that we can get, we can sort of funnel to our e-commerce store. So I think there are a lot of different, variables that you can measure, things you can measure, to know whether or not it's worth it for you, really what you want at the end of the day. So, and I would piggyback.
This is why you're a coach in the community, because different perspectives. So
we've tried all kinds of things. We've done a market that was a 5-hour drive, and we did that last summer, and I think we went 6 weeks in a row, and then realized, like, this is a lot. It's a seasonal market too. So it came closer to the end of the season, and we opened up a wholesale account there with a local coffee shop, and then they hit their slow season. So this year we were invited back, and we were just like, 5 hours one way. And then on the way back, it's a drive on a Sunday afternoon, when everybody that's up there for the summer to beat the heat is heading back to the valley. And so it's more like a 7 or 8 hour drive home. And so if you think about the time and the gas and the fact that usually we would have to we would try to stay overnight so we could get up early in the morning and be fresh for the market. So, and even though it was a really great market, we still had to say no. We liked the market, we liked the people, we were making money, but just not enough to justify all those other things.
One of the things we talk about in that up-level workshop is Danny did a whole call on hiring, right? So maybe that's like when you're like growing and you have multiple markets, then you may want to consider hiring, so that you can still do those cool markets, but you don't have to drive.
Which is what I think we'll probably end up doing for those Phoenix markets, because if they turn out to be good for the summer, that means they're going to be better in our high season, which is fall and winter, in Arizona, right? So then there might be an opportunity to hire somebody up there so that we're not making the drive, and we can and have extra bodies so that we could try the market we really want if they'll accept us.
That's right.
So
I love it.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to figure it out for sure. And I would piggyback LaDonna's question with Arena's of the fizzy bean. She's asking, how do you know if your product has found a market fit. Like you talked about being passionate about having what you make, about it being consumable, something that people are using on the regulars. And so how do you know if your product is something that people want or is in the right place?
Well, and what I love about what Irina's doing is she's actually doing the thing that I would suggest, which is she's starting at a farmer's market and
Yeah.
she's testing it out. She's getting immediate feedback from consumers. And sometimes that feedback is no, thank you. Ooh.
Mhm.
Like, and you
Right.
have to be willing to not everybody's gonna love your product. And that's okay. You know, that's not the goal is for everybody to love it. But the people who do love it, what do they love about it? Are they okay paying the price point that she's going to offer? And she's got this great cold coffee beverage that's, you know, it's like finding with any products, a lot of times people are like, we're stretching beyond what people know. So it's like trying to find something that's like you're explaining in a way that people understand. Like it's a cold espresso sparkling beverage with a little kick to it, or it's like this, but with
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of this, right? So it's such a great way to just test out your messaging, test out your pricing, test out your flavors, and then you can take it, you know, when you want to go to that next level, like for her, it might be bottling this product. For other people, it might be like, oh, it's already packaged, but I want to put it on a store shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It's then you can take that data that you get from a market and say, you know, every week I sold this many more, and I'm tweaking my messaging and tweaking my sizing and my pricing and getting more efficient and, you know, all price wise and all those things. And then you can take that data to the next level, and you really do want to try to test these things out incrementally. And that's why I do love the farmers market model. I know not everybody has the time or desire to
Mm-hmm.
invest in that, and I totally get it. There are other ways to test it, but they are going to be more techie, you know, more
Mm-hmm.
like social media and more, you know, virtual and things like that. You can certainly do focus groups. I've was on a call with somebody who wants to launch a product, like a cereal product that's a little bit different. Like there's definitely some different things about it, which is cool, but you got to get feedback on that. You got to see where are the pain points for people. Like, you know, is it the price? Is it the flavor? Is it the size? Is it
Yeah.
something about maybe the texture of the product or the convenience of it or the nutrition or the expectations? And so it's a matter of testing it, and it's tough. You got to be willing to hear not so great feedback, and you want that because that's what makes you better. But it is important to test for product market fit. The last thing I want you to do is go out and get 50,000 of anything. Be like, or 5,000 or even 1,000. Be like, you know, we got all these bags printed and we're doing this flavor and this size, and you have done no testing at all, and
Okay.
then you're going to invest so much money and time and then be like, well, why isn't it selling? And you didn't get any of the feedback ahead of time.
Yeah, I think we value our farmers markets for that reason, and we still do. You know, when
Yeah.
people want to, and we've even surveyed our customers to see where they might want to see us next, right? To see what kind of feedback we're getting in terms of like, would they buy us in a store? Would they, you know, and that's sort of how we landed on Amazon. In fact, I think we did a survey where people would like to see us next,
Mm-hmm.
and that got the most response. And so that's kind of what prompted our work with you. We kind of went that direction. So then we got the brand updated, and yes. And I would have been really sad had I bought 6,000 bags at
Can
pouches,
you
which is what
imagine
I
when you
do now.
started?
Yeah. Like I've had 6,000 pouches that felt like I had to use up in our old brand. Our old brand was like, yeah, I love it for what it was, but now I'm very happy that we have the brand that we had. If I had like 6,000 of those or even 5,000 sitting alongside of me going, you know, it would be really tough to feel like, you know, I could move forward. So, let's see here. Yeah, there's some questions. We have still a few questions, so maybe we can move through those. I'm not certain
What do you think
how
about
much
making this
time.
a two-part series?
Yeah,
Me too.
right. We could do this. And then,
Make that
so,
decision on the fly, but
right.
I guess we
I
won't be a
know, two
two-parter.
parts, part one, part two. So let's kind of stick with maybe some of the questions that fit into what we're talking about
Great.
now. And we're talking about farmers markets and figuring out what's going to work in your market. And you talked about testing prices, and Meg of Bifrost Butters has a question because her butter is going to have a higher price point than she makes a compound butter, and she's going to have a higher price point than traditional butters. And her question is, how does she justify that to her buyers?
Yeah,
Um,
great
so,
question. And it fits
mhm,
perfectly into this when you're just starting a business and really for probably most of you guys listening, the life cycle of your business, you are never going to be able to compete on price ever. Like, let's just, you are not going to be competing at Walmart or anything like that
no,
with whatever you make. So then we have to approach it very differently. And really where I think we need to do it, and this is where a lot of my marketing background comes in. I mean, I don't have formal training with marketing. I got my degree in history with secondary education, which has served me well, but
yeah,
not in marketing. But I think I just have that brain of a marketer, and I did that for Whole Foods Market for a good long time. But we, we sold expensive products at Whole Foods Market, and I think it comes down to selling. You got to sell a story. There has to be a connection with your customer where you're not just telling your story. They don't care about you. April, you have an amazing background as a health and nutrition coach and all of that, but you can't start with that. And I think that's where a lot of people want to start is like, but I'm a chef or I'm a coach or I'm this or I'm that. And nobody gives a crap
mm-hmm,
until they understand the problem that you're solving for them. So in Meg's case, the problem, quote unquote, is that you've been eating really bland, boring steaks and pasta and fish and other foods, right? Like your life doesn't have to be so bland and boring, and just a little bit of this amazing compound butter. And weirdly, I attract all the compound butter people. There's not that many of you, but they all come and work with
right.
me, which I love it. And I love
Well,
the
I'm glad
product.
they do because we love them. Yeah.
I know, it's so funny to me. I'm like, I mean, I would understand if it was like coffee or hot sauce or something, but apparently all the butter people come and work with us. But that's the real problem that we're solving. And so we got to get people connected in with us first of like, oh, yeah, I am tired of like bland, boring steaks. I
Mm-hmm.
want something that's interesting. And with Meg's product, she has this butter called Cafe de Paris that's like this recipe that her husband got when he was a sous chef or chef in Paris from this restaurant, right? It's got this amazing story, and that's part of what you got to lead with too. And for her, I get kind of excited because I told her, I said, we need you to become the Grey Poupon of butters. We want people to ask for it by name, but how,
Right.
you got to add in some story. You got to add in, what's the problem you're solving, right? Like, and make it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit I mean, I can go to Walmart and buy leggings, or I can go to Lululemon and buy very similar leggings for 10 times the price. So it's that brand, it's that story, it's that affinity that people have, the connection. And so it's really about starting there and building on that story. I get really
And
passionate
I
about
think
this
it's
story stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. And I think too, going back to that question about the market fit, it's also knowing what market to put it in, right? Like if you want people to ask for it by name, then are you working in, in food service with exclusive resorts or, like, right, right. Yes. So it's like finding those places where people are expecting and wanting and don't even think about the cost of it. And I mean, we've had that similar experience too. I mean, Yes. So we have a $14 product, and I mean that's for a 9 ounce serve and then a 9 ounce pouch. So that's a pretty expensive granola. And so we can't, one of our biggest competitors is Purely Elizabeth, who started just like I did with a nutrition background with one product of, it was granola, and but her timing was different, her product is different. She grew in the way that we're not really interested in growing because her product is a little bit more, I hate to say this because she has a really great brand and really great product, but like more of a commodity, where our product is more specialty and suits a certain type of consumer. So we have to go where that consumer shops, And so now we have a lot of people that find us via the resorts because they'll say, oh my gosh, this granola is so good. What is it? And then they'll say better than provisions, and then they'll go look us up. And so it kind of works in reverse for us.
Right.
To get customers from that.
Meg, like going to those high-end steak restaurants and at the beginning you have to just bend over backwards. Like, I'm not saying, I mean, maybe you even give them some product for free at the beginning and you do a fun steak night and you're there as the founders and, like you make it a fun event, but you become good partners with them. And you just have to start with one, and then you build the two, and then you build three. And next thing you know, you're in like, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and you're like one of the featured things that you can ask for on the menu. But you don't get there from here. It starts with one, and you drop your entitlement, and you become a great partner, and you just do whatever it takes, and you keep knocking on doors, and the first one might say no, and then you try it again, and you try it again.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say too that, it's okay to ask for what it's worth, not necessarily sell it for what you think people will pay for it. That was probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I got when we started, because I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a consultant in the beginning helping me to figure out how to price it. I really was just pulling a number out of my hat. Right. So, and I mean, I knew my COGS at the time. I knew how much it costs us to make it. But I didn't know anything about like what my margins should be or any of that. And so I have a friend that has a product business, and she's been in business a long time, and she's very successful. And that was her number one piece of advice was, April, charge what it's worth, not what you think people are going to pay for it.
Yeah.
And you can always reduce your price, but it's a lot more complicated if you start low and then you go up. So I think that, just getting that validation of, okay, it's okay to charge what I think it's worth. So then I was like, Earl's like, well, I think we can get $10 for it. And I'm like, oh, well, no, we're going to charge 15. And so that was my first price point, was $15. So,
right.
And we got out there at the farmer's market and tested it, and people were,
farmers markets, you can definitely command more. People are willing to open their wallet. They're there to shop. It's an experience.
Yep.
They know they're going to pay more. So it's a great place to start. And it gets tricky with the charge what it's worth. Because I agree, I don't want people coming out of the gate losing money or their margin's not right. And that's why, that pricing for profit tool inside Food Business Success is, people are like, this is worth the entire price of the program, just that one spreadsheet.
Yes.
But then remember, you're also building a path towards profitability. And so you can survive at a farmer's market at the beginning, but we had to do a lot of tweaking for you guys to be profitable at wholesale, right?
Yeah, we changed it up for sure. Yeah. So
it's a journey.
charge. Yes, it is indeed a journey. And we've increased our margins by lowering our COGS, by making, now we can purchase big, we've grown slowly and organically, but eventually, we got to a point where we could make those shifts and then open up the margin further. So then we can offer things like discounts and opportunities for people to save money. So, that was really a good answer. And hopefully that was helpful to Meg. And so we've answered quite a few questions on the beginning stages of a food business. You've explained what a consultant does. We've talked a little bit about how someone might get their start and some of the things that they want to consider when they're starting their food business. And I think that this is probably a good time to maybe to wrap up this segment of our conversation so that we can come back a second time.
Yes.
Because I hate the idea of missing anybody's questions, right? Because our members really submitted some really great questions. So I want to obviously make sure we can get to all of them. And also that we don't lose people to a 2-hour podcast, because not everybody is a 2-hour podcast listener. I can tell you.
I know. We won't do
Yeah,
the Andrew Huberman style
I
podcast.
know, right? But we could keep talking about this probably for the next 5 hours. So that just gives us an opportunity to come back and answer maybe some later stage business questions, and give the folks that this first episode is going to be helpful for time to listen to it. And clearly this is your 200th episode. So there are plenty of other episodes that folks can tune into in the meantime to get some more of your knowledge and expertise. And you have other experts that you've interviewed as well. Do you have a few favorites that you might like to leave our listeners with today that they can go check out?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, don't worry, Ryan and Maggie and Jan and Jessica, we're gonna come to you guys
Yes.
next week. We will get yours. And yeah, this has been so fun to have April interviewing me and have this conversation. You guys can see why I love her, and she's such a great fit inside the program, and so fun. We're going to definitely have more of these conversations, but I'm stalling because
those are excellent choices. And I second your thoughts on Sarah Delavan. I think she's great and definitely worth the listen. And I'm not sure what episode ours was when early days, when we were first really starting to work together, or maybe it was when we finally launched on Amazon. I can't remember, but it leads me to saying that third episode that you mentioned, the power of having a coach, is really powerful. You're obviously, you're not my first coach, you are my first business coach, but not my first coach in life, because I really believe that having someone that you can bounce ideas off of, someone that can help you recenter yourself when you feel off, and someone that can help you find the resources that you may not be able to resource in the moment, whether it's because you just don't have access to them or because you are so maybe overwhelmed that you just don't know where to look. I think that is really helpful in business and in life. So thank you for those recommendations.
Amazing.
And yes, and thank you for letting me be the guest host today. This was really fun. And I look forward to doing it again.
Well, thank you, April, for guest hosting, and we will get a time booked to do number 2 follow-up and get everybody the rest of the questions answered. Thank you to all the field members who submitted questions. At first I was like, come on, you guys, we need more. And then we're like, oh my gosh, we have so many.
Yes. And happy anniversary. Happy 200th
Thank
anniversary.
you.
So Congratulations for all your hard work. Yeah. You bet. All right, you guys, we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
The smartest thing you can do as an entrepreneur is to invest in a who to help you with the how, to speed up your journey and help you skip the line. When you are ready for more support and accountability to finally get this thing done, you can work with me in 2 ways. Get me all to yourself with one-on-one business coaching, or join Food Business Success, which includes membership inside Fuel, our community of food business founders that includes monthly live group coaching calls and so much more. It's one of my favorite places to hang out, and I would love to see you there. Go to foodbizsuccess.com to start your journey towards your own food business success.